Hi, welcome to Goats Gardens and Healthy Tips. Tonight is going to be a healthy tip night. So I'm going to be making some dog food for my dogs tonight, Riley and Max. And I thought I would just do a little video about this because I have found this to be such an incredible, significant advancement for my dog's health. And so I'm just sharing what I do for dog food, and maybe you'll want to take some tips from this, or maybe share it with someone else who is in need. So the way that I got into making my dog's food is probably, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, when I had adopted a couple of rescue dogs, and they had some issues. One of them in particular had some really significant health issues, as far as he just seemed really out of it, really spaced out. He had really bad dander. His skin was so bad. A lot of fearful things, but mostly I just felt like he was really sickly. And so it was kind of at that point, I had always just used conventional dog food for our dogs and treats, and I didn't really put that much effort into finding out, a better way for them. So once I got these dogs, this is when I was in a different time of my life, where I was working in the health and healing field, working on that for my own health because of my health conditions. And I just decided I was going to do some detoxing with these dogs. And I had taken them to a healthy vet, more of a alternative veterinarian, and he had put some detox supplementals for this particular dog. And I decided I was going to make some detox kind of a broth type of thing for this dog. And so that's kind of how I started out, and it really helped him so significantly. He honestly became one of the smartest dogs that I had, like so easy to train and such a trick dog and everything. And he was just cloudy from toxicity, from where he had been and not received good care, and been out probably astray for quite some time. So, and had a lot of worms, a lot of parasites that we needed to cleanse. So that really brought him around. So anyways, that's kind of where it started. And then that's kind of how I did it at that time. So I would make this kind of a broth or a juice type of thing that I would put on their food periodically, maybe a few times a week, to help them get some extra nutrients for detoxification. Well, then my dog Ruby came along, and Ruby was also a shelter dog. She was approximately 8 years old when I got her, is what we were told. Now, I took her to a doggy chiropractor because she had some really significant structural issues, and he thought she was actually maybe older than that. So I am not sure. Ruby just passed away from our family this last March, and my thought was she was 15 and a half. Now, maybe she was older, I'm not sure, but she just was not a very healthy dog. She was about 10 pounds overweight, really significant arthritis, very bull-legged from being overweight. So she had a lot of things to work on, let's put it that way. And she had kind of bowel issues, like she would have some diarrhea, and later on she developed some colitis. That's when so I started out just getting a better brand of dog food, and then using my tea, that I would make, or my juice, or whatever you may want to call it, and doing supplementation with her. And then as time went on, she did really good. She just improved her health so much. She lost, 10 pounds. She was great, walked really well. And then it was about 6 years ago, it was right at a really busy time, and she started having these little tiny seizure type of things. It was always after she ate. And so I had switched her over to a canned dog food, a wet dog food versus dry, because I had thought that might be better for her for digestion, because she had she did not have good digestion, and she had developed, some bowel problems and stuff. So I switched over that, which really had helped a lot. She was doing much better, and then she started having kind of these little tiny seizure things. Not bad, but they happened after she was eating, so I thought it must be something with her food. So that was kind of my tipping point, where I did some more research on it, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to make her food. And so that's when I started making dog food. Now here I am, it is like 6 years later, and I'm still making dog food. So I've been making the dog food a long time, and I got to tell you that my dogs look so healthy and feel so good and have so much energy. And I really do attribute it to what they eat. So they eat the homemade dog food, and they also have some dog treats, but I really read labels and make sure they're getting minimal ingredients and they're not getting a lot of processed stuff. So I'm going to show you how I make dog food, and I realize for the general person that this is a lot of time and energy. It is a lot of time and energy, and you may not have time to do it like I do it for their consistent food, but maybe you want to make some dog food and have it as a topper on your dog food. So you can always do that and freeze it in little containers and give it to them as a topper on their food. I can guarantee you that it improves their health to have unprocessed food, you know, the best that you can, unprocessed food. So we will get going, and I have to tell you this too, that after I started making Ruby's dog food, she did not have any more of those little seizures for 5 years. And when she passed away, she had a seizure, and then a few days later she had another seizure, and that's when she passed away. But in between that time, she did not have any more seizures. Her mobility was so much better. Her bowels were so much better. She was happy, she was healthy, she's the cutest thing, and we loved her very dearly. And so she was a very, you know, old dog that right up until she passed away, she was still going for 2 walks a day and sleeping a lot more because she was older, but having a very full life. So that is what you want for your dog for sure. So anyways, this is what I'm doing with my dog food here. I've got the ingredients out, and I'm going to kind of show you what I do. I've got 2 crock pots out here, and I have an Instant Pot. Instant Pot is so great. If you don't have an Instant Pot, you want to save up and get an Instant Pot because you can use these for so many things. So normally what I'm doing it a little bit different tonight because later, and normally what I'll do is I'll like put the meat on and cook it a slow cook overnight. I can just like put it on the crock pot and leave it for the night on a slow cook, and then in the morning I'll take the meat out, let it cool, and then while it's cooling, I'll put the vegetables in the same crock pot that has the juices in it from the meat and let that cook for, you know, a couple hours or whatever it takes, and then have the rice on in the Instant Pot, and then I can mix them all together. But tonight, since I'm kind of getting started here a little bit later, and I don't have any refrigerator space because I've been clearing out my gardens and my refrigerators are packed. So I'm gonna have to just cook it up tonight. That's why I'm using 2 crock pots. The other thing that you can do is use like a big electric roaster, and I've done that before. The thing with that is it just seemed like it got stuck around the sides as it was cooking because I put everything in there at once. So I was, you know, constantly scraping around the sides, and it just seemed like that this is working out better. Another option is you could put your meat product in a like frying pan and fry that up, and then just, you know, steam your vegetables or however you want to cook them in a crock pot, or however you want to cook them and cook your rice and mix it up. So whatever is easiest. You could probably throw it all in the oven in a big roasting pan too and just cook it all at the same time. Whatever seems like it's easiest for you. So what I normally do is I get my meat going first. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I've got, you know, you can use beef, you can use chicken, you can use turkey. This is what I'm using is I have about 2 pounds of chicken. And then I've got, I usually use about 10 pounds of meat, but I think I have 9 pounds here of turkey, ground turkey. And what I usually do is try to have some organ meat like liver. I don't have any right now. We had some beef liver because we buy from an organic farmer some beef, but it's all gone and I couldn't find any. Chicken livers are good to use, or chicken gizzards, and they didn't have any at the grocery store. So this batch is not going to have organ meat in it, but normally I like to put 1 pound or 2 pounds of organ meat in it. So anyways, we're going to do without that this time. And then I've got eggs, and these are eggs from my garden, eggs from my chickies, and I'm using 10 eggs. So it's like 10 pounds of meat, 10 eggs. That's what I use. You can get recipes online, or I use this Just for Dogs nutritional vitamin pack that I put with it. And it has recipes that you can use the scan code on the back, and you can go right to a site that gives you recipes, and then you can kind of figure out your ratios. So I did that back when. I also used this book, Dr. Pitcairn's Complete Guide to Natural Health with Dogs and Cats. And I kind of got information about what they need for good nutrition for making a dog food. So I did read up on it before I started making it. And so this is kind of what I figured out for my ratios that seems to be nutritionally sound and works for me. Now you can do your own research and figure out what works for you, but this is what I've been doing. Okay, the other thing that I'm going to be cooking up is rice, and so I've got 2 packages of brown rice here. Now, when I was making this food for Ruby, her digestive system couldn't handle the brown rice, and so I used white rice, and I used like a package of white rice, and I used some brown rice pasta that was already broken down, so she could break that down better. But now, with these dogs, I'm just using the brown rice. And then I've got some vegetables. So I use a variety of vegetables. This is what I'm using tonight. So I've got 2 packages of cauliflower. And I have some stuff from my garden that I'm using up. So I have a couple of zucchini that they need to be cooked up. And so I'm going to put those in there, and they really like them. I take the skins off and chop them up real small and put them in there. I've got some carrots. These are kind of some odd-shaped carrots that taste wonderful, but we're just going to skin those and cut those up and put in there. And then I just clipped some parsley and some celery. I'm going to chop that up and put that in there. I like to put something in that's like a good detoxifier. So parsley is a really good detoxifier. Celery is a good drainer. And so I like to put something like that, like spinach is a really good detoxifier. So sometimes I put spinach in. Let's see, and it kind of depends upon your dog. Like Ruby was so sensitive that the cauliflower family, broccoli family did not work well for her. So I didn't ever use that with her. I used a lot of pumpkin and potatoes and stuff like that. That are some other options. I'll use sweet potato sometimes. I'll use pumpkin. I'll use white potato, red potato, and squash, like winter squash, peas and carrots. Sometimes I'll buy frozen peas and carrots and green beans. And now this summer, when I've been making it, I've been using a lot of stuff in my garden. So it kind of depends on what I had with the garden. So I'm trying to use up some of this garden stuff that needs to get used. So we've got the vegetables, we've got the rice, we got the meat, and then I put in an oil. And a lot of times, I don't have any on hand right now. I need to order some, but I'll use this Just for Dogs brand. And they have a dog oil that's really healthy for them, an omega oil. But tonight I'm going to use flax oil, which is really good for their skin and their coat too. And I'm going to put some of that in there. And then I also put this other, it's called Canine Complete Enhanced Multivitamins. And this is, let's see, it's got different ingredients than this is a multivitamin mineral pack. And this one has got like kelp, flaxseed, fish protein powder, some calcium, aspergillus. So it's got some different fermented things and enzymes in it, papaya, good things for their digestion, a lot of really good things. And then this one has got more than general vitamins and minerals. So I put about 4 scoops of this and 3 tablespoons of this into my 10-pound meat. And this is 4 pounds of rice. And that's the ratio when I looked that seemed like appropriate. Now, a lot of people like to go no grain, and so then you wouldn't use the rice. And I did research on that. I have used no grain dog foods in the past, but my feeling was that this is the best that's for my dogs. And so you have to research that and find out what's the best for your dogs. There was a problem a while ago with dogs getting heart problems, and what was one of the things that they were discussing was it coming from the dog foods that didn't have any grain in? And I don't know the answer to any of that. I'm sure those no grains are just as good. And I do use a roll of Fresh Pet that is no grain sometimes as a supplement when I'm run out or something. So that is really, and I know a lot of people that use no grain. It's really good. And I used to use a no grain dry dog food, so I know that it's very good. But this is just what works well for my dogs. They feel good, they have high energy. So you can just do your own research and decide what you want to do about that. And like I said, you can get a book that has information about the nutrition and recipes in it, or you can look online, or you can get Just for Dogs, and they have recipes with their packet mix. So some options for you. So the first thing I want to do is get the meat going. So I have my 2 crock pots. Like I said, normally I would just use the one and then refill it afterwards, but I really want to get this done tonight. So I'm going to put the meat in this crock pot. I'm going to put the vegetables in this crock pot. I'm going to put my rice in here, which takes about an hour and 20 minutes. And I'm hoping the meat will get done in a couple hours. Both these, I have them on high already, and I turned them up so that while I'm cutting this stuff, it can get nice and hot. I've got water in both of them, so it'll be like boiling water, and then it kind of makes a nice broth too, because you don't want it to get dry. And so I'm going to get going on that, and then I will show you the next steps that we do. So first thing, I'm going to cut the meat, and I'm going to put it in here. And I'm going to use a special cutting board. Plastic cutting board that I can wash easily for the meat. Now, normally what I will do with the meat is I will, I'm going to get a razor knife here. I will just kind of cut it in big chunks and put it in here. But since I want to get this to cook faster, I'm going to cut it up a little bit smaller, and so that it cooks faster. My dogs love it. My dogs are crazy for their food. Everybody always comments about that, like that they leave their dog food out all day, and you know, the dog will just nibble on it here and there. No, my dogs eat their food in about 1 minute, so it is gone immediately. And they always know when it's time to eat. I mean, literally, they eat at, you know, certain times of the day approximately, and they know exactly they're getting revved up when it's time. That was another thing, was when Ruby was getting older. That's one thing, I'm just giving you information that might be helpful for you if you have an older dog. And that was something that helped me out with, was to feed her 3 times a day versus twice a day, because they're, like her metabolism might be a little bit off, and she just might need that nutrition more often. So she had said it was better to feed her 3 times a day, you know, maybe make that smaller or something than the twice a day. Another tip I'm going to tell you about dogs and their health is there is so much processed junk in dog food. And I know that sometimes that's what we have to use, and I used to use it as well. But just read your labels and maybe do some research on the brands that you're buying, because when they're eating all that garbage that some of the dog food has in it, it's just like us people, and then they develop more disease. And there are so many sick dogs now. I just feel like it's got to be food and environmental, because it's just really, you know, you talk to people and so many dogs have cancer now. So if you want to keep your dogs healthy, you got to feed them healthy food and healthy water, just like with people. And getting back to that, so with Ruby and Max, when they had so much weight to lose, and I thought that was going to be really hard, but all I did was put them on, you know, good quality food and good quality treats when they had treats. I also use like carrots, cut up carrots for treats, you know, too, stuff like that, vegetables, little pieces of cooked sweet potato, stuff like that. And the weight just came off, you know, between that and going for walks. The weight just came off. It was not a struggle of cutting their food back so that they're not eating anything. It was, they were eating 3 times a day, good food, and going for walks, and the weight came off. So Max is been here for 7 months now, and he went from 25 pounds to 14 pounds in probably five and a half months, I'm going to say. And that was just with healthy food and exercise. So food makes a difference. I make enough in my batch, you know, you could make a small batch and just put it in a crock pot. But I make enough that lasts my 2 dogs 2 weeks. If you had 1 dog, it would last a month. So you can do, you know, 1 night a week or 1 day a week of that for a month. But since with the 2 dogs, it lasts 2 weeks. So if I was putting some liver or something in here, I would probably put, depends upon the packet, 1 pound to 2 pounds. It's kind of rich. I had to be careful about that with Ruby. I couldn't give her beef liver. She's just too sensitive. I could give her some chicken liver and like 1 pound in here, and she'd be okay with that. So just something to keep in mind. Now, a lot of people feed their dog raw food, and I know that they have very healthy, and another option is freeze-dried food. My daughter feeds her dog freeze-dried food, and that seems to be a really healthy option too. So there's other options besides going through all the work that I go through with this, but this is just what works for me. I'm just sharing it in case somebody else thinks it might work for their dog, especially if their dog has some health concerns. It can make a huge difference. The other thing I have on the counter here is turmeric, and I put turmeric in their food as well. Buy an organic turmeric because it is a natural anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer. It's just a really good, healthy, helps with so many health conditions. So I put that in their food too. Okay, there goes the chicken and the turkey. Put the lid on that. Just put the lid on tight so that it cooks faster. Okay, now I'm going to put the vegetables in this one. And just cut these up and put these in. Once the vegetables get cooked nicely, then I just kind of stir them up, mix them together, and then I add the vitamin pack once they're cooked, or not all this pack, the 3 tablespoons, the 4 tablespoons of this, put some turmeric on, squirt some oil in. I do that after they're cooked. And if you're wondering what kind of vegetables dogs can have, just look it up online. It'll tell you, like, can dogs have cauliflower, and then you can look it up and see, and you can find out all the different foods they can and can't have. So this, parsley, celery, I had grown in my greenhouse now because the garden I just pulled up, and I put these in some buckets and brought them in the greenhouse. So I'm kind of excited that they're still growing. Also, I add the eggs to the vegetable mix. Okay, zucchini. I want to save my zucchini for the skins for the chicken, so I'm going to put those over here, not by the meat. All right, zucchini's in, celery's in, parsley's in, cauliflower is in. I'm going to cut up the carrots and put in. All right, I'm going to put the carrots in. My crock pot's getting full. So I got all the veggies in there. I have water in there. I'm going to add some more water. just a little bit here, but I'm going to put the eggs in there next. And I'm just going to put them in a measuring cup so I can whisk them up a little bit. I'm going to save my shells. So what I do with my shells is I rinse them and I put them in a like a crock pot or a crock type of thing. Corningware is the word I'm trying to find. And then when I get it full, I bake them for like 10 minutes just to make sure there's any bacteria on them. And then I crack them up and put them in a baggie and save them for my garden. When I'm planting, I'll put them in there with the plants. Another thing about the homemade dog food and the nutritional aspect of it is, I remember when I got Ruby, she had some teeth that were bad, and she had to have like a dental surgery to have a couple of teeth removed. And she had that done 3 times, so I'm going to say it's on time number 2. And you know, she's getting older now. Nope, this is right after we got her. This is right after we got her. I had to have some teeth removed because there's a comparison. So when they remove the teeth, they have to do that whole blood draw thing. And she had, like, her thyroid was kind of sluggish. We didn't ever put her on medication, but we were going to watch it. And then after I put her on the homemade food, that all improved. And when she was having a hard time the last week of her life, and she'd had this little seizure, and we did some blood work to make sure that it wasn't like, you know, dehydration or a diabetes or something like that. And her blood work was just like perfect. So that was at 15.5. And the vet even commented on that, like how great her blood work was. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit more water in there now. So we're going to let that get boiling. I hope it's going to cook fast because I really want to get this done tonight because I don't have any refrigerator space. I have some freezer space for it. So once I get it cooked, I will put it in containers and stick it in the freezer. So anyways, we're going to let that cook, let the meat cook for probably a couple of hours on high. And I'm going to put the rice on right now. So I use my Instapot. Now you can cook your rice however you want to cook your rice, but this is just such a easy way to do it. So if you don't have one of these, so simple. You just put your, well, I always rinse my rice, so I'm going to put my rice in and rinse it. And then basically you turn it on, and there's a switch called multigrain for multigrain rice. So there's different, you can use just the manual settings as well, but they have some designated switches. I think I used 2 bags last time was what I wanted to use. I was a little concerned that there was going to be too much rice in here. So I have to kind of look here and make sure that it's going to not be too much rice for my Instant Pot. If it is, I'm just going to add some to one of these things here. Probably add it to the meat, but let's see what it looks like here. Yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit too much. So I've got about 1 bag and 3/4 that I'm putting in here. So inside the pot there is a max fill line in there, and so you can't have anything past that line. And I need to put my water in here yet, and it's going to bulk up, so I'm just going to put this amount of rice in here. Okay, Instant Pot goes on. I'm going to plug that in over here, and basically all you do is, on the Instant Pot, I'm going to move this closer so you can see here. There is switches on the front here, so you plug it in, and for this rice, this whole grain rice, you just hit a button that says multigrain. Now there's a rice button, and that's if you're going to use white rice, and that cooks a lot faster. The multigrain takes about an hour and 15 minutes. It takes 55 minutes, but it has to get to the right pressure, and that takes a little while, so it's about an hour and 15 minutes for multigrain. So my hope is that everything's going to get done about the same time. And then I can throw it in the tubs that I mix it in, and I can add these when I throw it in the tubs too, or I can add them to the vegetables, whatever. These vitamins, the turmeric, and the oil. So anyways, we're going to let that cook for a little bit. So just in case you're interested, this is that book that I told you has some helpful information about nutrition for dogs, like what they need. It has special diets in here for special conditions, and it just has a lot of other good, it's just a good natural dog and cat informational book. Dr. Pitcairn's Complete Guide to Natural Health for Dogs and Cats. Okay, well, I had to let this stuff cook overnight. I was wanting to finish it last night, but it was getting super late, and the carrots were still not cooked yet on the vegetable brew. So I just put the meat on low, and I put the meat on just the keep warm low, and then put that on low, and the rice was done, and I found a place in the refrigerator to squeeze it in. And so now I'm gonna mix it all together. Final step. So I did also find the Just for Dogs oil in my refrigerator that I didn't realize that I had a new one. So this is anchovy oil, herring oil, mackerel oil, sardine oil. Just seems like a good quality. And then I do have the flax. So what I'll do is sometimes I'll use flax, sometimes I'll use this one, and today I'll just put a little bit of both in there. So I've got the oils, I've got the vitamin pack. Now this Just for Dogs vitamin pack, there are other brands of this as well that I've used, but I've just kind of started using this one now. And it says on here that this is formulated for 39 pounds of food in this package. So I'm going to use about a third of it because I've got 10 pounds of meat, and then I've got rice, and I got vegetables. And I do also give my dogs like little multivitamins, so I'm not concerned about having the exact amount. So if you want to investigate that a little bit more, but when I figured this all out in the very beginning, I figured about a third of the package, which is about 3 tablespoons, maybe 3.5 tablespoons of this product. And the turmeric, I just sprinkle some in, so I don't have an exact amount of that. This Canine Complete that has the kelp and such in it for their immune system, I usually use about 4 tablespoons for my serving here. And they have a daily dosage on the back, but I'm just adding, this is just a supplement for me because I know that the dogs are getting good nutrition anyway. So I really like these for my mixing. I use these for my garden prepping too, like for washing all my vegetables. They're just nice for storage because they pop open. So I have a couple of these. So what I do is, and you might just make a small batch, like put everything in one crock pot and just make a small batch more often. My thing was I didn't want to do it as often, so I was making a large batch. But quite honestly, it might be easier just to make a small batch and make it more often. And then I freeze them in these containers, which stack up really nice in the freezer. Usually about 7 or 8 of those for this amount that I'm making. What I'll do is I'll just divide everything in half. It just is easier than trying to do a big, huge thing. And like I said, if you were doing a smaller amount, then you wouldn't have to deal with that. I'm going to divide the rice up first. Okay, rice, and I think I am going to add some of these other ingredients to the rice and mix it around because it's easier to mix that in really good when it's not so full. So I'm going to put a little bit of the oils on, and I just, this is probably like 3 to 4 tablespoons of the oils. This one, I'm going to put, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to, I'm pretending like I'm putting about 3 tablespoons on here. Because I want to leave that spoon dry for the powder. Okay, 3 to 4 tablespoons on there, maybe a little more. You can judge for yourself what you want to do with that. And then this is that powdered vitamin. So I'll just make sure that it's mixed in here. And we'll do a little of this. Smells like fish, a little of that. Split this one up. And put 2 scoops on each one of this. I mean, it seems like a lot of stuff I'm putting on here, but it does last 2 weeks, so for 2 dogs. And some turmeric. It's going to make it kind of orange. You want to be careful about this too, it stains, so you don't want to get it on something that you don't want to stain. And then it's just kind of easier to mix this in. A lot of times I'll put the powdered ingredients in the crock pot when the vegetables are done and mix it that way. It's just easier to mix it in before you add the meat in. Now I'm going to add the meat in. And one thing that I normally do is when I'm adding the meat in, I'll put on some plastic gloves, because then I can scrunch it up easier than trying to do it with a fork or something. So it just like scrunches up really easy if you, because it's been cooking in, on a slow cooker for so long, so it's like super soft. So even though it's all big chunks here. Okay, so now I'm gonna mix all the meat in with the rice really good. Okay, then after all the meat is mixed in with the rice, now I'm going to add the vegetables in. Okay, so now I'm going to mix all the vegetables in with everything else. This has got kind of a lot of water in it that I had in the crock pot, and some people might not want to leave that in there, but I just leave it in there because it's been cooking with the meat and it's been cooking with the vegetables, so it's going to have a lot of the nutrition from the meat and the vegetables in it, and it just kind of makes it a nice kind of stewy type of texture. And the dogs, it's easy for the dogs to eat and they love it. I would say the only downside into them eating soft food like this is like teeth. They don't get the crunching of the, hard dog food when they eat their food. But I do give them chews that are for teeth, and I'm trying to keep up on their teeth with brushing and stuff. Riley's one of those dogs that's prone to having plaque on her teeth, and so I have to kind of really keep after her teeth, but I just think that the benefits to the healthiness of the food outweigh that, because I can take care of that in another way. All right, this looks so good. This looks like a stew. I mean, humans could eat this very easily. So here's the finished product. All right, and then when you put it in your containers to freeze, you just want to make sure that you leave a little bit of room at the top because of the expansion when it freezes. So what I'll do is I will, make a really full one for the refrigerator, and then the other ones that I'm putting in the freezer, I'm gonna leave a little bit more room for the expansion. So this can be my refrigerator one. And then the rest that I'm gonna put in the freezer, I just won't fill up quite so full. Here is our finished product, all ready for the freezer. And then the best part is I get to give the little doggies their lunch. Okay. So now the best part is letting the dogs enjoy their food. So how much do I feed them of this homemade food? This is about how much I put in their bowls. I don't measure it out, I just kind of look. And then you just kind of watch, like Max needed to lose weight. And so, you know, I was starting out with smaller amounts. Now he's at a good weight. So I'm just watching to make sure that he's not losing more weight now. And this is what they eat about 3 times a day. And Riley is pretty consistent with her size and everything. She's at a good size, so I just keep it about the same. If you notice your dog is gaining weight, then you just want to back down. And if you notice your dog is too thin, then you just need to give him a little bit more. All right, guys, you ready for your good food? Are you ready? Are you ready, Riley? Yeah. All right. Here you go, Max. Here you go, Riles. And they love their food. So that's it for dog food making video, and hope that you find that helpful.